Hey friends, thanks for dialing in. I really appreciate your subscribing. See if you can get a few friends to join us on this journey. It's really going to get interesting. Thank you for your support. Chapter 10, Constable O'Shaughnessy. Bobby was going about his minimal duties when he got a call from his friend Lieutenant Bando. "Mr. O'Shaughnessy," he asked formally, "do you think you could please come by the station this afternoon?" "I believe I am available, Lieutenant. What can I do for you?" "It is not what you can do for me, but what we can do for you, sir. Could you come by at, say, 3 o'clock this afternoon?" "Of course, amigo. I will see you then." Bobby's interest was piqued, to say the least. What on earth could they want? He hadn't heard anybody all week, and there had been no problems reported. Showing up a few minutes early, as was his custom to scope things out, he noticed more activity than usual. "What is this?" he thought. "Everyone is busy. Looks like someone important is coming to visit." It was obvious by the way he was ignored that he was not the important visitor. A few minutes later, a new and very clean Mercedes pulled up, and everyone started saluting the occupants as they exited. One man in particular was the focus of attention. He had one of the most ornate uniforms that Bobby had ever seen. "That's the chief of police," the man next to him whispered. As everyone followed the VIPs inside, Bobby was motioned to follow along. What on earth could this have to do with me? Bobby wondered. Settling into the chair in Lieutenant Bando's office, the chief got comfortable and cleared his throat. The chief of police stepped up to the podium. "Honored guests, this is a very special and unusual occasion. We've never had a situation like this. To have a foreign visitor so willing to put himself into danger to protect the citizens of our city is truly a special person." Bobby still wasn't sure what was going on. "People such as this should be rewarded and appreciated for their efforts to help us fight crime. I see we have one such person with us today." The light in Bobby's awareness was starting to blink. For Mr. O'Shaughnessy to put himself in harm's way, without thought about his personal safety, it gives me great pleasure to award him this certificate of appreciation. It also merits him the title of Honorary Police Constable. At this point in the proceedings, Bobby stood up and came forward for the expected handshake and photo op with the chief and the other suits and dignitaries in attendance. Now we have one more asset to assist us in the ongoing fight against criminal activity. This man can only help us to do a better job. Thank you for all that you have done. The chief then stood up and hugged Bobby for the photographer, and then he quickly left. "What the hell was that all about?" Bobby asked Lieutenant Bando. "You are the newest honorary constable in our city, my friend." "You mean this is real?" Bobby asked, showing the certificate. And so it happened that the only foreigner ever, not to mention a white man, became the first honorary police constable in Nigeria. "Mr. O'Shaughnessy, let me welcome you to the force," said Lieutenant Bando, as the thin man pumped Bobby's hand in an enthusiastic handshake. Getting back to the embassy, people were relieved to see he was okay. In the past, people have been known to disappear, never to be seen again. When he flashed his award and explained his absence, no one knew what to say. "I think this deserves something more than a drunken evening at the Black Cat, don't you?" Sharon announced over dinner that night. "Why don't we have a little party here at the embassy? We can invite some of the locals that have been so kind to us since we have been here." "What do you mean kind?" Doug asked. "Folks around here have been less than hospitable. They only invite us because we are embassy personnel." "I know, but this is a chance to make some social connections and have a good time. Now all I need from you is a list of guests you want invited. I'm sure you'll want all your Marine friends invited. Who else?" "Well, if that's the case, Recruit Wilson needs to be there." "Recruit Wilson?" Sharon had a strange look on her face. "Who's that?" "He used to be Recruit Doughboy before he got hard." Bobby was trying to keep a straight face until the punchline hit her, but he just couldn't hold it and started giggling. "I see Mr. Giggles is back," Sharon said, getting the joke. "I guess it would be okay for little Ray to come to the party," she said. The hesitancy in her voice was obvious. "You're the one that suggested I invite my Marine friends," Bobby tossed back. "I didn't know my 14-year-old son had enlisted in the Marines," she fired back, not completely happy. "I thought that he was enlisted in growing up and becoming a man. Do you have a problem with that?" Bobby asked with an edge in his voice. "No, I don't," she said, giving up. Think about who else you want to invite, and please, no hookers for your Marine friends. They can stand a night of being among civil people. Sharon had no idea of just how popular this soiree would become. After his tryst with Ms. Pepone, his reputation as a world-class lover was also spreading fast. Seeing her daughter go from potentially suicidal and depressed to passionate about life again, Madame Leon's recommendation sealed Bobby's reputation as someone very special with the ladies. So it should not have been a surprise when many of the upper crust of local diplomatic society wanted to come to what was advertised as a simple reception for the trade minister's assistant. Mr. Grant, I would like to throw a small reception for Robert becoming an honorary police constable. Could you please help me with a guest list? Of course, Ms. Wilson. Who and how many guests would you like to invite? That's the problem, Mr. Grant. We are new here, and I don't know anyone in the diplomatic community yet. I want to invite our embassy people, and the Marines, of course. That will make for a very lopsided guest list. I would like to invite some of the local ladies to balance things out, if you know what I mean. Why don't you leave the guest list to me? I do this for a living. Would you say 25, 30 people? That would be wonderful. I will leave this in your capable hands. On the scheduled Friday, the party started after work. The food and booze were fit for a wedding reception. The bartender had been warned about no shots for Bobby or the Marines. A drunken brawl was not what she had in mind for her first social event here in Nigeria. The ladies arrived as expected. What was not expected were the number of upscale women in attendance. This was not a bunch of tired clerical workers at the end of a long week, looking for a free drink and an appetizer before going home. These were some of the finest ladies from the diplomatic missions around town. Several were crashing the party uninvited. Bobby worked the room like a seasoned pro. He made sure to thank everyone for attending and hugged or shook hands with all of his guests. The ladies were used to the big bellies and broad bottoms of the men in the diplomatic corps. The wide shoulders and trim waistlines of the Marines made them an immediate hit with all the women. Bobby was impressed and told Grant so. "Walter, where did you find all these beautiful women?" Bobby asked. "If I told you, I would have to kill you." Walter laughed in an uncharacteristic moment of humor. "This is what I do for a living, remember?" Since Bobby had not exposed his private life, Walter felt safe enough to allow himself a brief moment of humor with the guest of honor. As he worked the room and pressed the flesh, Bobby noticed Brigitte Pepone and what he was sure was her mother. "Ah, Brigitte, how nice of you to join us." Bobby greeted them with a hug and a rather chaste kiss on her cheek, avoiding her upturned mouth, much to her displeasure. "And who is this lovely woman, if I may ask?" As he turned and extended his hand to the incredibly beautiful woman, who looked to be in her early 50s, but was probably 10 years older. An international trophy wife who looked every inch the part, if ever there was one. "Robert O'Shaughnessy, may I present my mother, Madame Leon." "Madame Leon, how nice of you to make time for our little soiree. Thank you so much for coming." Bobby had his charm up to maximum. "Mr. O'Shaughnessy, it is I that should thank you. We don't get invited to many occasions such as this." As she spoke, the regal woman pulled Bobby in close and kissed him on both cheeks in the French custom. Bobby laughed uproariously as he obviously enjoyed her attention. After everyone had a bite to eat and a few drinks, the party settled into a rhythm of meeting and greeting people. They were having so much fun, they had to send out for more liquor for the extra guests that had arrived. As the party continued, Bobby heard the opening notes of the Rolling Stones playing "Start Me Up" from some speakers hidden in the bar. Next to the small receiver and CD player was a grinning recruit Wilson, looking very proud of himself. "Where did that come from, Ray?" "Sergeant Miller sent me on a mission, Tio." Miller was grinning like a kid with a new pair of roller skates on Christmas from his table. "Good job, recruit. Your mission is to sit here and take requests from the ladies. Then someone will have to dance with those ladies. You up to that task?" Bobby replied with a smile. "Not really, Tio. I'm not much of a dancer," Ray replied, sheepishly looking at his shoes. "Recruit, these ladies are our guests. Now if they've had a bite to eat and a few drinks, they will want to dance. Do you have a problem with that?" "But I don't know how to dance," he whined. "What? "Let me show you how this is done, mijo," Bobby said. And with that, he walked across the room and gently touched a tall, pale, long-legged beauty on the arm, and leaning in closer, quietly spoke to her. Taking her hand and leading her to the center of the dance floor, Ray Ray watched in wonder as this beautiful woman was transformed into a sexual dynamo. As Bobby and his partner gracefully moved in time to the music, Ray Ray was amazed at the power of giving someone an audience to strut her stuff. This was important information that he would not forget in the future. Later on, as everyone was dancing and enjoying the moment, Bobby noticed Recruit Wilson sneaking a little champagne when he thought no one was watching. Not wanting to embarrass him, Bobby called over PFC Santos. Santos was the youngest Marine in the squad, the lightest drinker, and the only Marine that had not seen combat. This was a fact that bothered Santos to no end. He was the unit's tech guy and very popular as a designated driver on outings to the Black Cat. "PFC Santos," Bobby beckoned him over. "Recruit Wilson has been spotted consuming unauthorized adult beverages. If his mother sees this, he will likely be restricted to quarters. Please go over and let him know that he has been observed and to take appropriate action to avoid detection." "Will do, sir." "Is lethal force authorized?" "Not at this time. Carry on," Bobby laughed quietly. Coming up on the young man from behind, PFC Santos scared him at the worst possible moment, just as he was about to get a sip of the bubbly. This caused him to bobble his glass and spill a little champagne. "Jesus Christ, Santos! Are you trying to give me a heart attack? Don't you know it's impolite to sneak up on people like that?" "Better me than your mother, asswipe. If she catches you drinking, you will probably be put on restriction and not allowed to hang out with us anymore. Not to mention it would be all Breed's fault and he'd be in the doghouse with your mom. Do you want that?" "No way, Santos. I guess I better be more careful." "It is not a question of being more careful, but of being appropriate. Having a beer with us after spending a day in the field is different than you getting sloshed at a major social occasion. You do realize that this is a major social occasion, don't you?" "I thought that it was a reception for Uncle Bob getting an award from the police." "This is your mother's first entry into local society. Why do you think she spent so much time and money on this party, dickhead? This event is very important to her, and you will not fuck this up." "I have my orders." "Lucky for you, lethal force has not been approved," he said as he gave young Ray Ray a friendly, open-handed slap on the back of the head as he left. Bobby was making another circuit of his party, checking to see that his guests were having fun. At this point, it was obvious that the party had taken on a life and a direction of its own. As Bobby passed Madame Leon, she beckoned him over with a long look that he understood immediately. "Mr. O'Shaughnessy, while Brigitte is not here, I would like to take a moment to speak with you privately about my daughter. First, I want to thank you for saving her from the direction she was headed. Now that she is feeling better about herself, I am no longer concerned about her safety. Now I want you to let her go." "Let her go, madame? I'm not sure that I understand." "Mr. Bob. I hope you don't mind if I call you Mr. Bob." "Not at all." "Thank you. Brigitte is a Vassar girl. She speaks 3 languages and is expected to marry well. Now that her soon-to-be ex-husband has been exposed publicly as a poof, her carefully managed life will never be the same. I cannot thank you enough for doing your part to stir her passions, but now I want you to let her go." "I'm not sure what you mean, madame." "Of course you do. Please don't be obtuse. My daughter has been bred to be a trophy wife for a statesman, or at the very least a man of extreme wealth. Please do not take offense, but I believe you are neither of those. As long as you are available, she will continue to throw herself at you in a shameless fashion until she cannot remarry anyone of her status. Now are you beginning to understand?" "I am beginning to get the picture, as we say in America," Bobby told her. "Good. I knew that you were very smart, and I'm thinking a rough customer, as you say in America." Ms. Lyon took a deep breath and chuckled. "I need you to not just avoid or reject her, for she will only love you that much more for your sacrifice. I need you to find someone else to use as a sex toy, much as she is more than willing. She needs to give up on you so she can concentrate on finding someone more appropriate. Unless, of course, you are thinking that this is true love and intend to marry her. Her gaze was intense and unblinking. I am not planning to marry anyone at this time. As I thought, I would like to discuss this with you further in a less public conversation. Perhaps you would call me at my private number. As a consolation prize, I would be happy to introduce you to someone to take my daughter's place, until you find others who are more qualified to be your sex toy, she said, laughing. Brigitte came back flushed and laughing from the dance floor. She hugged Bobby and asked, "What have you two been talking about?" "How beautiful and alive you look, my dear." "That's a lie if I ever heard one," she said, smiling, "but I will accept it for now." By now, Ray Ray had a line of young ladies waiting to have a request played, and as the DJ and assistant host, he was doing his best. His mother could only wonder where her little boy went. When he lost the 10 pounds of baby fat, she lost the baby that went with it. Sharon looked up in time to see her son rocking on a dance floor with a chubby older teen and having the time of his life.